Hi everyone, my name is Princess Palesa Kambule. I am born under the family of the royal family of Dlamini. We are actually the ones that we are coming from.
Hello and welcome to Obehi Podcast. I'm your host, Obehi A14, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started with this episode.
The previous state that used to be called Okhistad, before South Africa was then called South Africa. And when they changed them to province, we used to be under the Mpumalanga province, but today it's actually called Limpopo province. My academical background, I'm a civil engineer by profession, of which I then furthered my studies to do my BCom accounting, as well as entrepreneurship studies, where I got an advanced diploma for business management. I've been working as the deputy president for Soweto Business Forum, where I was mostly assisting entrepreneurs to focus into building and getting new markets for them, in assisting the township economy. And also, I have worked as the CEO of Malibuye Investment Holding, where I've been dealing with villages. If you understand the background of South Africa, the most places that everybody think they find a job is in the cities, whereas the villagers, everybody's running away from the village to flock in the city, thinking that they can get a better life. So my journey, I've worked with about 16 villages around the country, where I've been teaching and assisting the communities, especially under the tribal communities. Tribal, I'm talking about those who've got chiefs and kings, and teaching them how to sustain themselves as the tribal communities, that they've got chances because they've got huge land where they can do farming. It's not like in the city where it's easy for you to just farm. And also, where I'm coming from, actually, it's a place where it's very, very rich in terms of the economy of South Africa, but it's in the villages because they are full of mines. We've got about 48 to 49 big mines surrounding the area, of which those mines, they were not assisting the community actually with nothing. The basic rights for the community, of which there was a time I fought for, which was just to get the clean water, which is a right for any human being. So my journey has been that I have just been fighting, I can say that, on behalf of the society, on behalf of the community, to get a better way of living, as much as teaching them to build generational wealth from whatever that they have. So I'm also a member on our Dlamini Association, which we are crying and we are fighting to get our land back, because when you talk, say you are a Dlamini, everybody thinks of Swaziland. Whereas the time of the colonizers in South Africa, they divided the land, and the majorities of Swazis were left in Swaziland, were left in South Africa now, today, and the rest, the ones that are inside the border, that other side, they are not even 1/3 of us that we are left this side. So my responsibility as well on that, it was to unite all the Swazis that were in South Africa, and making sure that we get back what we ripped out, our dignity, and what was stolen from us, because we can say it was stolen. because every nation that is sitting now in South Africa, they are highly recommended except Swazis. So when you say you're a Swazi, you are referred to go to a Swatini. And I've always wondered, because we have other nations in South Africa. We've got Sothos, we've got people from Botswana, but we have never said we associate them with their countries of Lesotho, of Botswana. But immediately say you are a Dlamini, oh, you are coming from Swaziland. And it's like, why always people think that we are all born on that uh, on that smallest country that it was cut into, whereas here only the Dlaminis in South Africa at the Home Affairs, the register, there are more than 5 million, and the population of Swaziland of everyone is 1.5 million. So it has been a journey that I've been trying to teach on that as well. And some of the Swazis now, they've even hidden themselves to be Swazis in South Africa because they are scared of being associated to Swaziland. If the Swazis are next to KwaZulu Natal, they would change and say they are also Zulus. If they are next to Limpopo, like us, they will change and say they are Pedis. So we are just trying to restore and bring back our culture so that it also be recognized in a very appropriate way, like any other any nation that we are staying with in South Africa. So that has been my work and my journey.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, Princess. I really appreciate that. That is really very interesting. Now, I would like us to talk a little bit about your family background. Then we can talk about your people in South Africa. Then we'll, of course, go into what you do today, which I find to be very valuable in terms of try to look for what can be the community or the village entrepreneurship, because there are ways that the people in the village can raise money and be able to take care of their necessities, their needs. All right, now first, tell me about your family background. So, what do you want people to know about your immediate family background? Yeah, where you are coming from, your lineage, as it were. Yeah.
Okay, my immediate background is that I was raised by a mother and a father, which they are both late, Mr. and Mrs. Kambule. And I had two big sisters, so I was the last child at home, which my two sisters, they are also both late. And when we go to, in terms of the, what you call, the protocol of then how do I then become to be called princess, it's because the King Mbanzeni, which was my great grandfather, he gave birth to King Palani. Palani gave birth to King Swape. Swape gave birth to another King Maisela. Maisela then gave birth to King Palane, and then King Palane gave birth to my father. And that is how I am a princess.
How is the throne of your lineage? Help me explain that a little bit from the genealogy that you just lay out. So, who is the heir to the throne as we currently talk?
The person that is currently on the throne is my aunt, which is the sister to my dad. I'll explain why. On 1968, when they separated, when they started to put on the fence that today now we are calling it a border to separate Swaziland and South Africa. At that time, it was Transvaal, and the king that was sitting on the throne, it was King Mbanzeni. The time the fence came in, he was on the other side of the fence, which he was at KwaLobamba in Swaziland. And he continued, he left this family this side. And then there was a family that he started that side, of which he gave birth to King Bunu. And King Bunu gave birth to King Sobuza. King Sobuza then gave birth to King Mswati the third, the one that is sitting on the throne. while on this other side of the fence, it was then my family that was left.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you for, everything about African tradition and culture is something that we need to continue to learn and to learn about it, how it functions and all of that. All right, that is fine. And when his Royal Highness come around just now, he will also explain some other parts in it. But I would like to concentrate on the village entrepreneurship, or the rural entrepreneurship, if you were to put it like that, because there are a few things that you lay out there in your initial statement. So I would like us to talk a little bit about that. First, you talked about the mining in your community, which are where the local people are not benefiting from it. So now you're trying to introduce a kind of um, generational wealth idea into them, how to create income for themselves, which is something really valuable because, like you pointed out, most of these chiefs and in the rural setting have a lot of land, and this land can actually be turned into resources. Maybe at the end of the day, what might be lacking now is the mindset, is the resources to be able to do that, because people maybe they do not know that they do not know what they're supposed to do, or maybe they do not have the ability to do what they have to do. So at the end of the day, it becomes a little bit challenging for them to live by the resources of their land. So first, help me understand what is actually being mined in your area.
The big mines that I'm talking of big mines that mine platinum and chrome. Our area is very, very rich in terms of chrome. So let me just go back a little bit. For me to start my journey, I was then asked by one kingdom, which was called Mampuru Kingdom.
Okay, thank you, His Royal Highness, for joining us. So we'll be talking before you came in. Uh, right now, you are here, and the princess is here, who will be telling us a bit about her background. Now that you are here, would you like to say something to the audience that are listening to us? Why princess was crowned? Of course, you are the paramount chief. You are the one that crowned her. Can you say something about? Will you say something to that effect?
Okay. Royal greetings to all listeners and those who are watching us live. As the paramount chief of Africa, Princess of Africa emerged some years back, and the first princess passed on, and we say migrated before the second princess. And this second princess that you are seeing is also a royalty. She came from a royal background, and that necessitated the choice of choosing her as the Princess of Africa. I must tell you that it's not personal. She wasn't just taken. I dreamt about her, and after dreaming about her, I called her. We had some chats. We had different delegations, deliberation, and also we come to a point where we then say, no, she deserves to be the Princess of Africa. As a Nglamini person, which of course is part of Swaziland, and being part of Swaziland, and they are like the Swazis in South Africa. And through all that, she will explain more to you. There are several reasons why she was picked up to say be the second princess, which is Princess of Africa the second. And Princess of Africa the second, because we had the first, and the first migrated. And after her migration, the seat was then vacant. We did not just replace her immediately. We respected her to, let's take a process of a year plus before we replaced that position. All SWAF federational members, kings and chiefs, and network of African kings are in support of it. All network of African kings, members, and founders, and founding fathers, their hands are on it. SWAF Federation, their hands on it. The Diaspora, which is our diasporan brothers, are also part of the coronation of the Princess of Africa. Having said this, there are so many other areas I would have been touching, but I will progress to it.
Before I ask the princess to tell me more about the activity in her place, because she really did point out some interesting things that I think we should be talking about a lot in Africa and among Africans, which is the possibility of generating income among the local people, where they should be able to benefit from their land. She said something very interesting there, but anyway, I'm coming to her. Now, the question is, when you say Princess of Africa, what does it mean? Can you say something to that effect? What does it actually represent? What is that office? What is it supposed to do?
As the Princess of Africa, they said we have the father and mother in the house to anchor the affairs of home. It then means that as the Princess of Africa, we have coronated her to make sure that the presence of women are felt on a high level on African network of kings, SWAF Federation, in the gatherings of royalties. We must have a top delegate of a woman who can represent the affairs of women. And in other ways, representing the affairs of women and children, it goes together. And as we have her on that position, she is also a royal emissary to carry out several activities in the kingdom on the feminine aspect of the royalties. We also challenge her to move into several ventures that will benefit some kingdoms on the issue of women abuse, which of course is the order of the day presently. We say that in the past, we speak about women less as a weaker sex, excuse my language. But then it's not what it is. It is not what it is. Women are our better halves. Women are the owners of home. Women are the keepers of home. And that is the reason why it necessitated that if we then put her here as the paramount chief of Africa, will be going into several kingdoms as a mediator and a coordinator of several kingdoms. She herself will be doing the same job on the feminine aspect. To sum the whole thing up, we have her here as the image of women on royalty. And as you know, there are some wars that men cannot carry alone. And then those wars requires the strength of a woman. And that is why her position is necessitated. I didn't know if I've answered your question.
Absolutely. You have answered it. Thank you so much for that. All right. Now, I come back to you, Princess. Before you were explaining to me about the mining activity in your place, so you were like sort of going back to sort of lay the background on the story. I don't know if you want to continue from there. I think it's very important because, like I said, this is an important argument relating to how to be able to create income within the local community. We need to benefit from our land and we need to benefit from what we know. Please go ahead.
All right. No, I was just explaining that years ago, I was then called by one kingdom, which is called Mampuru Kingdom. And I was employed there. I've worked there as a CEO for 5 years. And the reason I was called, it was because where the kingdom is and situated, it's surrounded by 19 mines with less than 10-kilometer radius apart. But that kingdom was the most poorest kingdom ever you can think of. So when they called, they were then asking for assistance from me that how can they best get the minds into employing their youth and also into making sure that they come out of poverty. And when I started working, I had this whole energy of saying, you know what, we are with the rights of the DMR, meaning the Department of Minerals in South Africa. These mines, they have full responsibility to take care of these people. But along the conversations and along the time being wasted sitting on boardrooms every time, these people were still dying in poverty. So that is when it actually started to say, let us check what do we have in the land that we can then try and work on it so that it alleviates the poverty and we build whatever that we can build and the generational wealth out of it. And we successfully designed a city called Mampuru City from that because the land was there, it was available. It was just a matter of how do we put our heads together into making sure that this land, it can be changed and be commercialized and be residential as well. We can have build factories on the same land and still create our own jobs from the same land. Although I left after doing the whole master plan, but it's something that now the community knows that for them it's not only just to depend or rely on the government or the mines that are nearby, but with their land, they can do so much. They can focus on agriculture. That land, because there's a mining area industry around, it's not easy for you to do farming for food. But then we then discovered that if they can start to do cotton, they can be the biggest exporter of cotton in South Africa. So that is when now the different villages started to engage and asking for my help. That is how then I went to different kingdoms into teaching them of using and utilizing their own land in order for them to survive.
Thank you so much for that, Princess. I don't know if His Royal Highness want to say something to the effect of the value of generating wealth, generating money within local community. Because now, okay, we are talking of this small part in South Africa, but this can actually comfortably be enlarged to other parts of Africa where we have some of these challenges, where there are resources in the land, these resources are tapped, but the local people never benefit from it. So now these local people are suffering and they need a solution. You know, a good example would be in the Niger Delta of Nigeria, where the oil is being explored, but the people are in poverty, and the resources is rich. But that is sort of a kind of irony in that you cannot be living in the water and you are dying of thirst. So I don't know if you want to say anything about that.
Absolutely. I will rather say at this juncture that what princes have started or crafted for the local community or communities is recommendable because these days, a kingdom existing without money has no power. I have often said in my previous interviews that in Africa, the problem we have is that those who have the brain has no money, and those who has money have no brain. But if you have money and brain together, then it becomes formidable. And when it becomes formidable, you anchor these two elements. Then it means that what you are chasing and what you wish to achieve will be expedited. So in this regard, I will ask the princess to replicate these same ideas in different kingdoms as we will be visiting very soon. We are actually going to carry out a familiarization visit, an intro visit to several African kingdoms with the Princess of Africa very soon. In that process, I would encourage her. Like, you know, during my time, it was a problem for me to step foot strongly, solidly, because it was the first time that the paramount chief of Africa was created. So I have eased off the road for the princess. At least she has a platform to operate. And the first princess of Africa has done equally. So it is no longer a new mission, but rather it is a trading path that she has to follow. And as she goes with this path, I will always be her backbone. I will always support her to replicate whatever that she has done on the local ground into international levels. Having said that, there are several communities in Africa that are waiting for the arrival of the princess with anticipation of such projects that she is talking about here. Such as I explained also in the previous interview about monetizing in Congo DLC. Monetizing took place already. So some of these projects and processes that we are passing through might be delayed, but not denied. I repeat, might be delayed, but not denied. Due to some of them are new processes that we are injecting into the royal processes, into the royal operational systems. Having said this, I conclude or resolute that in resolution, I am saying that the Princess of Africa should replicate, and I will empower her as much as I can to replicate these ideas in international level because they are recommendable. Asante.
Thank you so much for that. All right, now to the princess, how are the local people reacting to this proposal that you might have been proposing to them about this new way of looking at the resources available to them and the possibility of generating income for themselves from their land and so they can live better? Because I believe at the end of the day, why you are doing this is because you want the quality of life of the people to be improved. But the people themselves, how are they even reacting to this? What are they telling you in terms of this possibility?
Our people, they never believe in themselves because of what was put and taught all of our lives, especially as the Africans, that I can't survive without being employed by a white man. And the time you start to bring these programs to them, the first thing they ask you, so when are we getting paid? Um, it's such a very challenging journey, and that is still going to take some time, but we are not stopping because once you start with one community and there's something that is happening, already you are starting to multiply the minds in a good and in a right direction. There will be those that they will still not believe in it, that no, you're wasting your time. I'm hungry now. I need money now. I need to take my kids now to school. And you are still telling me I must start to clean my yard so that I can prepare for farming. That's going to take time, you know. So it's not easy at all. So most of the time, what then I was usually doing, I was really assisted by some of the departments of our government here that maybe they can give some sort of like a stipend So on whatever program that I'll be then introducing, it will be accompanied by a stipend. Even that is not much, but that little that they know that at the end of the month they are going to get, then they stand up and come. But if there's no stipend, even if you just want to teach them, you want to carry a workshop, they won't attend. So it's still very, very difficult. And I know that even if going forward, taking these programs to the whole of Africa internationally, this mindset that it was transferred to us by our great grandparents generationally, that for us to be taken seriously, I must go to school. Yes, that is good. And then I must be employed by a certain big company. But not that I can start my own company and grow it to be big, just like the same company that they expect me to go and work at. So it's the community, it's not easy to work with the community. I've always said that, but we don't stop. We try our best to work with them and help where we can. And mostly, even if you get 10 good results, you have achieved a lot, because those 10 results will multiply into another 10 and another 10, and that's how we are able to say our nation will change their mindset.
All right. So, like I was saying, His Majesty, if you could, if His Majesty can please explain what can be the strategy to be able to get this message across to the people in a way that they can believe in it and work on it to be able to generate income for themselves, because that is the objective at the end of the day. So they can have, so that their standard of living can improve through the resources that is available on their land.
All right. Like I referred earlier, we are making use of the orders of the days. And the orders of the day is technology. We have several platforms and we have several communication or communicating methods and mediums. Because in the past, we use what we call the town criers, the gong, to convey messages. It's no more like that these days. We are using or taking advantage of what we have, which is technology. And that which we have, that we are taking advantage of, is the platforms we have. But like I earlier mentioned, we are going to be carrying out familiarization and intro visit to several kingdoms. And that is with me and the Princess of Africa. In that way, we will live and direct, communicate the messages, and she will replicate whatever that she has done locally here in South Africa into their kingdoms. And better still, raise a particular person in that kingdom that we have visited that will be in constant chat with her to replicate the idea. And so that person becomes her arm in that kingdom. This is how we want to carry it out physically. Then financially, we are calling this time around on philanthropists of Africa regions. Why? If in the past I had said we want Africa for Africans and by Africans, and having said that, it then means that if we want Africans for Africans and by Africans, the financial aspect also has to be done by Africans. It doesn't have to be a Western support. It has to be an indigenous support. And by so doing, we can be proudly Africans. We can emerge proudly Africans because we are able to handle our issues. I keep saying in most interviews that we had previously that there is nothing as such, like I even had said it in the stand of Pan-African. I have said it in the stand of AU. I have said that as far as Africans is concerned, we must learn to be proudly Africans by standing together the way we used to be, formidably. You know, there is no such like we are having issues and we are expecting foreign intervention. Foreign interventions will not solve our problems as Africans. Foreign helps will not make us proudly. So at this juncture, I say to you, we are calling on local brothers and sisters. And when I say Africans, it does not exclude the diaspora, because we have our diasporan African brothers. They are not Westerners. They are the product of slave tradery. And so they are part of Africa. So we are going to call on the foreign, we're going to call on our diasporan brothers. We are going to call on Africans indigenously to come in and support this whole movement of the paramount chief of Africa and the princess of Africa into the kingdoms of Africa financially.
Thank you so much, His Majesty. I was thinking about the ceremony. I don't know if there is anything you would like to say about that.
Yeah, the ceremony took place on the 19th of December locally. Okay. Yeah, but we are still going to have a bigger one by, I suppose it's by June or July, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, we're going to have a bigger one that will now bring the whole African kings to South Africa.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if His Majesty want to say anything about that event that took place on the 19th of December, which is the coronation of Her Majesty, the Princess of Africa. Is there anything we should learn about that?
Yes, it was very traditional. It was a review of African culture. And as a custodian of culture tradition of Africa, I was impressed with what I saw locally, the local displays, the dance, the power that was there. In fact, the compound at which it was celebrated brought us home to Africa. It shows that Africa still keep their heritage. It was very, very rooted in an African way. You know, 100% Africa. The dressing, the environment, the food setup, the dance, the speeches, the activities, and the power that flow spiritually. It was powerful. And most people who visited were very impressed. And they say, bravo, let this continue. More grease to your elbows. Because when you do things like this, it then say to us that the reason why we are here as Africans are still there. The root has not been lost because the culture, the tradition, and the customs of people were reviewed on that day. In fact, it was a kind of replicant of what happened some years back. You know, when I mean some years back, was the day myself was coronated. There was the move of the Spirit. That is what matters most. You know, when you talk about coronation, I want to explain this aspect. When you talk about coronation, some people will just come up and think that coronation is just, what do you call it? Coming out and kneeling down and they put a blessing on you. It's not true. It's not coronation. Coronation goes through processes. And when it goes through processes, you are then calling on our ancestors. The power will be revealed and available on the ground of the coronation. That is what is called coronation. It's not just put on the dress, put on the ornaments and royal regalians and say you've been coronated. No, there is what is called impartation. So she was imparted heavily that day. And we will try and give you a cut of the video for you to have that portion and see what exactly happened. We'll just give you a short video on that. It was powerful. There was move of the Spirit in conclusion.
All right. I want to ask Royal Majesty. This is a mission. You know, when you have been selected, when you have been picked from among many to be crowned a princess, you become ambassador for the people. Yes, that is an honor. Yes, but that is also a responsibility. But I want to understand, what is your feeling? How do you feel being the princess of Africa? And how do you look at the responsibility going forward? Please explain that part.
When I got the proposal of being made a princess of Africa, I was then asked, and I also asked to have 2 weeks in my prayers to ask my God and my ancestors if is it my position or not? And obviously I will never be ready for such, but in terms of asking that, it will come with an answer that yes, my daughter, you can go on, we'll be with you all the way, or no, not yet, you are not ready because of this and that. But before the 14th day of my prayer finished, on the 11th day, I had a revelation. And the revelation, it never said, now you are ready to be a princess of Africa. But the revelation was, these are the people that are waiting for you, and your path has been done and is ready. So that was my confirmation. Till now, I'm still having goosebumps when I think of the position, because it's not just an easy position. It has a lot of responsibilities. These are the children of God. These are human beings that you must be somebody who is very honest in everything that you do. You cannot just promise them things that it won't happen. And I just have the confidence only knowing that the appointment, it was done by heaven. And once anything is done from there, you are already paved the way for you. And whatever obstacles that I will meet, that will still give me confidence that I was chosen from heaven and God chose me to walk on this path. So I can't say it's something that I will ever in 100 million years say I'll be ready for. But now I'm doing it, and I'm confident that everything will work according to the plans and the will of God.
I don't know if His Majesty would like to say something to the effect of, what is the process of actually choosing a princess or the princess of Africa. But we are moving towards the end now. I don't know if you want to say something about that.
Yes, what she just mentioned, there are some things that we don't talk. In fact, the coronation started 14 days before the day people knew about it. So these are spiritual exercises that I didn't want to talk about. But anyway, she has already mentioned it, so I will then talk about it. In the process of choosing her, we have sampled other people, looked at other people, considered so many factors, and then we say, no, these are not the rightful people. Among the three others, we chose her. And when I say we, means I'm not the only one. It's not that I'm using a veto power or being authoritative because I am the paramount chief of Africa. No. In SWAL Federation, we have the gathering of the kings and chiefs, royalties, queen mothers, and all that of all parts of Africa. So she was duly selected. And when she was then selected, there is some spiritual exercise given to her, which is part of what she mentioned to you. She was then told, she was being told that, you know what? Go now for 7 to 14 days and be secluded. That is seclusion. Pray, fast, and act if you are the rightful person to be here. And in those exercises, it is an exercise of spiritual build, preparation for the position that she was about to emerge, which she's now there, coronated. So it is a spiritual process and exercise. We don't just say, you are coronated this day. No, the day that people saw was now a fulfillment of what has already been accumulated on the past 14 days. There are some exercises that were not even shown in the camera during her coronation. So there are several preparation steps. This is what I want to say. Just like when I was coronated, the day I came out was not the day I was coronated. The day I came out, even people could see that I was very drowsy. Why? Because I just stepped down from the top of a mountain down to the people. And people gathered already. I was exhausted, but I had to complete that coronation physically on the ground and put on my ornament to acclaim the position as the paramount chief of Africa. So the same process was what the Princess of Africa has undergone.
Thank you so much, His Majesty. In fact, you see, only on this part, we could spend an entire day just talking about it. You know, some people might think it's not important. It is important. Even within the academians of Africa, we need to talk about these things. We need to write it down, at least part of it, so that our children can have it to read. There are processes. It's not just like His Majesty said. It's not just okay. Today we do this ceremony. That is it. No, there are preparation for it. There are days for it. There are the grooming for it. There are a lot of things that goes into that. But if we don't say it, people don't know. Perhaps maybe there is no need to talk about it. I don't know, but I'm just thinking that as a human being, as an African, I think it is important that we have a documentation of this process, or at least what actually is going on here, so that people can understand. Because, just now, we will be saying Africans don't value their culture. But if they don't know what is even inside this culture, whereas a lot of books are coming about Western culture, explaining there, you only believe what you see, what you know. The other one will say, okay, maybe we don't tell them, and so they don't know, and if they don't know, they don't value it. Anyway, I know I'm overblowing the issue. This one can be for another day.
No,
Uh,
you actually, being, if I had to interject there, you are
please.
actually preempting what I wanted to ask you for. I wanted to say to you, we need to document it. We need to have a proper way of documenting our royal proceedings and procedure in terms of coronation, just for the next generation to know and have it written. And because if they don't have it written, royalties will never be gone on the surface of the earth. And if they do not have the process of coronating a royalty, then it means they will do it the wrong way. We are more of the Westerners already, whereas we are Africans. And I often say that we become the sympathizers that cries more than the bereaved. And what does that mean? We are copycats as Africans. We are copycats. We are copying more than what we should be copying as Africans. No, it's wrong. It is a time for all of us to sit down tight and defend, hold, and uphold our cultures, traditions, and customs of Africa. In other ways, we need to put it down. We need to write it down so that in future we can always know that we have something kept. We have something kept for our generation to come. And that is what they have to inherit. That is heritage.
I'm really fully into this. I love it. What would be his the final statement here to conclude the conversation? Then, of course, I'm going to ask also Her Majesty, Her Royal Majesty, to say something in line of what can be the final statement. So this is the concluded part. Okay, maybe let me go to her first. To Her Royal Majesty, what would be your final statement here? It can be you want to reinforce a line, you want to leave a message, you want to say something to the effect of in relation to what we have said today. Please go ahead and do that.
Okay. What I would like to say is that the struggle in Africa still continues. Um, so many things that cause you don't listen or you hear about them, but they're still happening. Today we talk of diaspora, but then we are still facing in Africa other countries that are still sold as slavery. So these are the things that we really need to know as Africans, that the struggle is still continuing and we must still unite and fight all of that. The the most important part when the paramount chief spoke to me said, "Did you know that all of us as Africans, we are one and we were separated by the borders in order so that then they can be able to control us. And today we find killings, especially here even in South Africa, calling another black man with names of being a foreigner, whereas they are in Africa. So the struggle is still continuing, that we have to be teaching and making people to understand that we are one as Africans. And with the issue of oppression and slavery, we still need to fight and it must end. So, with these words, I'll just say the struggle is
Aluta continue.
Alusa continua. Thank you for that. All right, now is the turn of His Majesty. What would be your final thought here to conclude the conversation?
Well, my final quote is that it is not over until it's over in Africa. As Africans, let's come together and have a formidable effort at all times. We should not see ourselves as foreigners in Africa. There are no foreigners in Africa. This is our land. And we are not running away. We're not going anywhere. We will remain to make sure that the culture, traditions, and customs of our forefathers, our ancestors, are upheld till the dying day, to the last day. And as the paramount chief of Africa, I will always stand on my ground to make sure that the culture is replicated, duplicated, and handed over to the next generation. At this point, I say to all listeners and watchers, Asante sana, habari za ajona, because we're almost getting towards the evening. Uhuru, Africa, and together we shall stand as Africans. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, His Majesty. And thank you so much also to Her Majesty. It has been an honor talking to you, to both of you. We are always happy to hear from you and to learn new things about our culture, about our heritage. Thank you so much, and have a beautiful time in South Africa.
Thank you very much. Asante.
Thank you.
If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewanfo. Thank you so much for listening, and talk to you in the next episode.